Dr. Sarah Mitchell brushes dirt from the skeleton with movements that have become ritual over 20 years of digging. The bones lie in their shallow grave as they have for 7 centuries. But something about this one makes her hands tremble. The left humerus is grotesquely thick, swollen with extra bone that no healthy body should grow. The right arm, by contrast, looks almost fragile. Her assistant leans closer, breath visible in the cold Yorkshire morning, and asks the question Sarah has been dreading. What could cause this? She photographs the finger bones before answering. Deep grooves run through the metacarpals, channels worn by something that pressed into them with relentless force, year after year, until the body surrendered and reshaped itself around the pain. The spine curves at an angle that would have made standing upright impossible. Bone spurs jut from both shoulders like grotesque wings. This man spent his life being slowly destroyed by something he could not escape. War, specifically an English longbow. The burial site contains 427 skeletons, all male, all aged between 30 and 55. Every single one displays identical deformities: overdeveloped left arms, curved spines, grooved finger joints, calcium deposits on shoulders and elbows. These were not soldiers in any conventional sense. They were weapons, human weapons, forged from childhood, used until they broke, then discarded into unmarked graves while the world that consumed them marched forward without a backward glance. She picks up a small wooden carving found beside the skeleton. A bird, crude but carefully made, the kind of thing a loved one might give as a keepsake. Someone cared for this man once. Someone waited for him, perhaps. Someone believed he would come home. But the boy who became this skeleton never expected love to survive what was coming. England, late autumn 1287. The boy is born during harvest season in a timber shack with a thatched roof that leaks when it rains. His mother, Agnes, labors for 18 hours while the village midwife, Old Mary, delivers him without ceremony or celebration. Peasant babies die so often that joy is postponed until they survive their first winter. His father, Robert, does not come inside during the birth. He is in the field breaking his back on land he will never own, for a lord he will never meet. The boy has no name yet. Names come later if they survive. The shack measures 12 feet by 14. The floor is packed dirt that turns to mud when weather turns foul. The family sleeps on straw mattresses that crunch and rustle with every movement, sharing space with fleas and lice and the occasional rat bold enough to scurry across faces in darkness. The roof leaks in 7 places. Smoke from the central fire pit exits through a hole above when the wind cooperates, and when it does not, the family chokes on fumes while trying to stay warm. Agnes ages faster than she should. At 26, she looks 40. 4 previous pregnancies ended in 2 miscarriages and 2 infants dead before their second winter. The cold took one, fever took the other. She holds this new baby with the exhausted resignation of someone who has learned not to hope too fiercely. The boy survives his first winter. A mild miracle. Agnes nurses him for 18 months, though her milk is thin from malnutrition. By age 2, he has a sister, Mary, quiet and thin, who works alongside their mother with small hands that are always moving. By age 3, Mary is dead from a fever that burned through her in 4 days. The boy is too young to understand. Agnes becomes more withdrawn. Robert never speaks of Mary again. Grief is a luxury they cannot afford. When the boy turns 4, he begins work. Light work, they call it, though his small body disagrees. Feeding 3 scrawny chickens, collecting eggs, hauling water from the stream in a bucket he must carry with both hands, making 4 to 6 trips daily because the bucket is small and the family's thirst is not. His hands bleed from gripping the wooden handle. Agnes wraps them in cloth soaked with honey. By 5, the work intensifies. Morning, collect eggs, feed chickens, haul water. Midday, pick stones from the field until his fingers are raw and his back aches. Evening, help mother with cooking, with mending, with the endless labor of keeping a household alive on scraps. 10 hours a day, every day, the only childhood he will know. Summer evenings sometimes bring traveling bards. The village gathers when they arrive, hungry for stories, for something beyond the grinding sameness of survival. One summer, a man named William the Wanderer tells tales of knights, Sir Lancelot's valor, Richard the Lionheart's crusades, the shining glory of chivalry and honor. The boy listens with eyes that have not yet learned to guard themselves. In his mind, he sees himself in plate armor, riding a destrier, saving maidens, earning titles, being someone who matters. That night, he uses a stick as a sword, practicing in the yard behind the shack. Robert sees him and laughs, not cruelly, but with the sad wisdom of a man who knows exactly how the world works. Boy, knights come from noble blood. You come from mud. The boy stops playing, but the dreams persist. Stubborn weeds growing in soil, too poor to sustain them. October 1294. The boy is 7 years old when Lord Pemberton's soldiers ride into the village. The reeve rings the church bell. 3 slow tolls that mean every family must assemble. No exceptions. People emerge from fields and shacks, wiping dirt from their hands, fear already settling into their faces because nothing good comes from mandatory assemblies. A soldier unrolls a scroll and reads in formal English that most villagers barely comprehend. By decree of Parliament and His Majesty the King, all able-bodied males shall train in the use of the longbow. Training commences at age 7. Attendance is mandatory every Sunday, following church, minimum 3 hours. Failure to comply means a fine of 1 week's wages or 1 day in the stocks. The soldier explains in simpler terms. The king needs 5,000 trained archers within 10 years. Currently, England has perhaps 800. Wars in Wales, Scotland, and France demand massive expansion of the archer corps. These boys, he gestures to the 30 children aged 7 to 15 standing in the square, will become England's greatest weapon. In 10 years, they will rain death from the sky. The boy looks at his hands, small, soft, child's hands. He cannot imagine them doing what the soldier describes. To demonstrate why this matters, the soldiers set up targets. A straw dummy wearing a padded jacket. An arrow fired from 100 yards penetrates 6 inches deep. A second dummy wearing chainmail. The arrow breaks several links and penetrates 3 inches. An oak door, 2 inches thick. The arrow punches clean through, the shaft quivering in the wood on the far side. The soldier's voice carries across the silent crowd. These boys will learn to do this. They will learn to fire 12 arrows per minute. They will learn to hit targets at 200 yards in rain, in wind, in darkness. They will learn to kill without hesitation, without mercy, without conscience. England requires it. The law demands it. There is no alternative. Parents stand silent. Agnes begins to cry quietly. Robert's jaw clenches so hard a muscle jumps in his cheek. He knows what is coming. He was trained as a boy, though never called to war, too old when the last campaign ended, too broken by fieldwork to be useful as a soldier. But he remembers the training. He remembers what it does to a body. No one protests. Protest is pointless when the law is absolute. 3 days later, the boy marches to the butts with 29 other village boys. The training ground sits in an open field behind the church. 200 yards of muddy grass with straw targets at 50, 100, 150, and 200-yard marks. Wooden racks hold small boughs. Rough benches line one side where parents must sit for this first year, bearing witness to what their children will become. Master Archer William Blackwood waits for them. At 52, he is ancient for an archer, a walking catalog of what the profession demands. His left arm bulges with unnatural muscle. His spine curves so severely he cannot stand straight. He walks with a cane, his body listing to one side like a ship taking water. His right eye is missing, an arrow accident during training at age 14. He tells no one who does not ask. 3 fingers are gone from his left hand, taken by frostbite during a winter campaign when he was 31. His face is a map of scars and weathered skin, his voice hoarse from decades of shouting. William does not smile, does not offer encouragement. He has trained boys for 20 years. He knows exactly what they will become. He distributes bows, small ones, made for children, 4 feet long with draw weights of 15 to 20 pounds. Adult war bows pull 150 to 180 pounds. These training bows are gentle by comparison, but the boy's arms shake when he grips his. The string is tight hemp, waxed to prevent fraying. The wood is yew, smooth and heavy. William demonstrates. Stance. Left foot forward, right foot back, shoulder width apart. Grip. Left hand holds the bow loosely, thumb and fingers barely touching. Draw. Right hand pulls string to ear. Not to chest, he emphasizes ear, while the left arm remains straight and strong. Anchor. The string must touch the corner of the mouth and the nose, the same point every time, because consistency creates accuracy. Release. Fingers open smoothly, no jerking, no flinching. Now you try. The boy notches his first arrow. He attempts to draw. The string barely moves. His arms shake violently. His face turns red with effort. He manages 4 inches of draw. Not enough. Not even close. Again. By the 10th attempt, his fingers are blistering. By the 20th, they are bleeding. William hands him a cloth without sympathy or concern. Wrap your fingers. We have 2 more hours. The boy fires 47 arrows that first day. 3 hit the target at 25 yards. His fingers are raw meat. His shoulders burn with lactic acid buildup. His back aches from holding stance. Walking home, he cries. Agnes wraps his hands in cloth soaked with honey. Robert says nothing because there is nothing to say. The law does not care about a child's tears. Every Sunday, 3 hours minimum, no exceptions. December brings freezing temperatures and snow that makes the targets barely visible. The boys train anyway. 2 develop frostbite. Their fingers turn black, require amputation by Brother Thomas, the village healer. A boy named Thomas, no relation to the healer, loses 2 fingers and can no longer draw a bow. He is sent to work in the Lord's stables, brutal labor for low pay, his body worn out before it finishes growing. By March, the boy's body has begun changing. His left arm is noticeably thicker. His right shoulder overdevelops to compensate for the constant pulling motion. Calluses form on his fingers, thick and permanent. He can hit a target at 50 yards 6 times out of 10. His draw weight increases to 30 pounds. Year 2, age 8. The changes accelerate. Left arm circumference, 9 inches. Right arm, 7 inches. His spine begins to curve, 5 degrees that his parents do not yet notice. The calluses on his fingers thicken to 2 millimeters. Sensation begins to fade. He can press a needle into his fingertip without feeling it break skin. Training sessions extend to 4 hours. Arrow count per session, 150 to 200. Distance requirements increase. Accuracy standards tighten. William runs the training like a military drill. Miss the accuracy standard, shoot for 10 extra minutes. Miss 2 weeks in a row, spend an hour in the stocks while villagers throw rotten vegetables. Skip training without a valid excuse. Spend 3 days in stocks plus pay a fine the family cannot afford. The punishment system is not cruel for cruelty's sake. It is designed to ensure compliance because the king needs his archers and the king does not negotiate. A boy named Peter, age 9, attempts to draw a bow that is too heavy for his development. His shoulder tendon tears with a sound like wet rope snapping. He screams, drops the bow, his right arm hanging useless. Brother Thomas examines him and delivers the verdict with the flat affect of someone who has delivered it many times before. Rotator cuff completely torn. He will never draw a bow again. Peter is sent to work in the quarry. Most quarry workers die before 30 from lung disease. William uses Peter as a teaching moment. This is why you build strength slowly. Rush, and you become useless. Like him. The boy watches Peter being led away, still crying, and the lesson carves itself into his bones. This training can destroy you. Year 3, age 9. The boy wakes one morning unable to lift his left arm above his head. The pain is sharp and stabbing, like a blade grinding between bone and muscle. Agnes takes him to Brother Thomas. The healer palpates the shoulder, checking for tears or breaks. Inflammation of the bursa, he says. Common in young archers. Then he checks the spine, running his fingers down the vertebrae, and his hands pause. He makes the boy stand straight and observes from behind. Your spine is curving. See here, the slight lateral deviation forming. This will worsen. Agnes asks the question she already knows the answer to. Can you stop it? No, The bow is stronger than the body. It reshapes you. Brother Thomas leads them down stone stairs into the church crypt. Torchlight flickers across walls lined with the village dead. He points to 3 skeletons in the corner, laid out on stone slabs. Old William, who died at 41, 15 years ago. Harold the Archer, dead at 37, 22 years back. Young Jeffrey, gone at 29, just 8 years past. All 3 display the same deformities. Left humerus massively overdeveloped. Spines curved at angles that would make standing upright agonizing. Bone spurs on shoulders. Evidence of healed fractures, chronic infections, joints worn to nothing. All archers, all trained from childhood. None live past 45. Brother Thomas turns to the boy. His voice is not unkind, but neither does it offer false comfort. This is your future. I have treated 50 archers in my life. Not one died peacefully. The bow takes everything. Agnes cries. The boy stares at the skeletons, trying to process what he is seeing. His spine will curve further. By 20, he will walk with a stoop. By 30, chronic pain will be his only constant companion. By 40, he will be bedridden more often than not. If he survives war, which most do not. Can I stop training? No. The law is absolute. Unless you are crippled beyond recovery, you train until you are called to war or until you are too old to draw. Brother Thomas shares statistics from 50 archers he has treated. Average age at death, 38. Died in combat, 18, 36%. Died from injuries sustained in combat after returning home, 12, 24%. Died from training injuries, 3, 6%. Died from disease exacerbated by weakened bodies, 11, 22%. Other causes, 6, 12%. The bow kills you whether you see battle or not. Walking home, Agnes holds the boy's hand. Silence stretches between them because what is there to say? Robert is in the field when they arrive. Agnes tells him what Brother Thomas showed them. Robert's response is flat, drained of emotion by years of watching this pattern repeat. I know. My father was an archer. Died at 35. I watched his body fall apart. Why didn't you warn me? Would it have changed anything? The law does not care about warnings. That night, the boy lies on his straw mattress, staring at the ceiling through the darkness. For the first time, he fully understands. He is not training to become something. He is training to be used up and discarded. His body is not his own. It belongs to the king, to England, to a war machine that consumes children and excretes broken men. Years grain forward. Age 10. His measurements. Height 4 feet 8 inches. Small for his age from malnutrition. Left arm circumference, 11 inches. Right arm, 8 inches. Spine curvature, 8 degrees. He can draw a 50-pound bow to full extension. Accuracy, 8 out of 10 at 100 yards. Williams' assessment, adequate. Not gifted, not hopeless. You will survive if you are lucky. Age 12. The transition comes. William announces it without ceremony. You have outgrown children's bows. Time for real weapons. He distributes war bows. 6 feet long, as tall as the boy himself. Draw weight, 120 pounds, 8 times what they started with. Made from yew wood aged 4 years or more. String thick as a finger, hemp fibers waxed and twisted. The bow weighs 2.5 pounds of solid wood that feels impossibly heavy in hands that have only ever held training equipment. First draw. Give me full extension. The boy plants his feet, grips the bow, notches an arrow, pulls. The string resists like iron bar anchored in stone. His arms shake violently. His shoulder makes a grinding sound, cartilage compressing, tendons stretching past their design limits. Something tears, a sharp, hot pain that makes him gasp, makes his vision blur at the edges. But he keeps pulling, gets the string to his ear, holds for one heartbeat, muscles screaming, releases. The arrow flies wild, missing the target by 20 yards. Again, his shoulder is screaming, but he notches another arrow. 2 months into warbow training, the boy's shoulder is in constant pain. He can barely lift his left arm. Brother Thomas examines him with the weary patience of someone performing a familiar ritual. Rotator cuff tear. Partial, not complete. You are lucky. Treatment consists of a poultice of comfrey and honey applied to the shoulder. Rest would help, but rest is not an option. Brother Thomas binds the shoulder tightly with cloth strips and advises reducing draw weight temporarily, knowing the advice will be ignored because William does not accept reduced draw weight as an excuse. The boy trains through it. Pain becomes his companion, a constant presence that sometimes dulls to a manageable ache and sometimes flares into white-hot agony. He learns to work around it, to compensate, to keep drawing no matter what his body screams at him. Age 13 brings a different kind of change. One evening, Robert and Richard the blacksmith speak privately in the village square. Their conversation is brief and transactional. Your boy trains as an archer. He will likely survive to adulthood if luck favors him. He may even see steady service, return with loot or wages. Richard nods. My Emma needs a husband eventually. I propose a match. When your boy returns from his first campaign, if he returns, they marry. Agreed. The arrangement is practical, nothing more. Emma's family gains connection to a potential soldier. Soldiers sometimes accumulate wealth through looting, sometimes receive pay. The boy's family gains connection to the blacksmith, useful for tool repairs, equipment maintenance, small favors that ease survival. Neither child is consulted. Consultation is not part of the arrangement. They are told together. Both families present in the village square. Emma is 12, the boy is 13. They stand awkwardly while their parents discuss terms. Emma speaks first. I'm Emma, I know. The boy's voice is uncertain, unsteady. He realizes he does not have a name worth mentioning. Robert's son, the archer boy. Emma looks at him directly, unflinching. Does it hurt? The training? Every day. My father says archers don't live long. Your father is right. Then I hope you're lucky. It is not romantic, not love. Just two children being informed that their futures have been decided without their input or consent. Over the next 2 years, they talk occasionally. Brief conversations stolen between chores, between obligations, between the grinding necessity of survival. What's it like? The training? Like being slowly broken. Every Sunday, a little more. Why do you keep going? Because the law says so, and quitting means worse. Age 14. She asks about his work. He asks about the forge. Their conversations are careful, testing boundaries, two people trying to understand who the other is while knowing their futures are already written. Age 15. Emma notices his posture changing, his back curving. Your spine is... I know, I'm not judging. I'm just sorry. Don't be sorry. Be glad you're not the one training. Spring of his 15th year. They meet by the stream where he fetches water for his family. Emma pulls something from her pocket, a small carved wooden bird, crude but carefully made. I made this. For you. So you remember home. He takes it. The carving is rough, the details imprecise, but the care is evident in every knife mark. Why a bird? Because birds can fly away. But they come back. Silence stretches between them. He turns the bird over in his fingers, feeling the grooves, the texture of wood shaped by hands that wanted to give him something to hold on to. When I come back, we'll marry, I promise. Don't promise. Just try. He tucks the bird into his pocket, where it will stay through everything that follows. Age 16. His body has become a catalog of asymmetry and damage. Height, 5 feet 6 inches. Stopped growing, malnutrition stunting development. Left arm circumference, 16 inches. Right arm, 10 inches. Spine curve 15 degrees. A visible hunch forming that makes him look perpetually bent. Fingers grooved 2 millimeters deep. Calluses 3 millimeters thick. Shoulder grinds with every movement. Chronic pain his only constant. He can draw a 150-pound bow comfortably. Accuracy, 9 out of 10 at 200 yards, perfect at 100. William pushes the oldest boys harder now. Speed drills, fire 12 arrows in 60 seconds while maintaining accuracy. 7 out of 10 must hit target at 100 yards. If they fail, They repeat until successful or until they collapse. Endurance drills. Fire 200 arrows in a single session. 90 minutes of continuous shooting with no breaks except to retrieve arrows. Results: fingers bleeding through calluses, shoulders numb, vision blurring from exhaustion. William teaches them combat realities. You will not aim at one man. You will aim at the sky. Volley fire. 5,000 archers firing together makes a cloud that blacks out the sun. You do not need to hit someone specific. Just send arrows where the enemy stands. He sets up new targets, straw dummies shaped like humans, some wearing leather armor, some with helmets, some with shields. He points to gaps in the defenses. Aim here. Throat, armpit, groin, eye socket. Anywhere armor does not protect. The boy fires. His arrow punches into the dummy's throat, the shaft sinking deep. Good. Now do it 10,000 more times until you don't think. Just shoot. William gathers the oldest boys, ages 15 to 17, for a lesson that contains no archery technique. War is not glory. War is standing in mud for hours, firing until your fingers split open and your shoulder feels like it's tearing from your body. You will see men die. You will kill men. Some will beg. Some will scream for their mothers. You ignore it. You fire. You kill. That is your job. He pauses, letting the words sink in. If you hesitate, if you feel mercy, you die. Or worse, your hesitation gets the man next to you killed. There is no room for conscience on a battlefield. The boy absorbs this, trying to imagine himself killing someone. The image refuses to form clearly. He can hit targets. He can pierce straw dummies. But the idea of an arrow sinking into flesh, into a person who breathes and thinks and fears, that image remains abstract, unreal. He will learn. They all learn, William knows. The first kill teaches what no amount of training can convey. April 1304. Gray morning. Cold rain turning the village square into a mud pit. The church bell rings 3 times slowly. Everyone assembles, already knowing what is coming, because the pattern is familiar now, has been familiar for generations. Lord Pemberton's soldiers arrive. Captain Marcus, age 40, a veteran of French campaigns with a face that has forgotten how to smile. 4 mounted soldiers, 1 scribe carrying a scroll sealed with wax. Captain Marcus unrolls the scroll and reads in a voice accustomed to command, to obedience, to men who do what they are told because the alternative is death. By order of His Majesty King Edward the Ferner, the realm requires archers for the campaign in Scotland. The following men are hereby conscripted into the king's service. He reads 30 names. Robert's son, the boy's lack of individual name called publicly, a reminder that he is one of many. Interchangeable, disposable. The boy's heart pounds. He knew this was coming. Knowing does not make it easier. Captain Marcus addresses the crowd after reading all names. The king requires 5,000 archers for the Scottish campaign. We are assembling them now from across the realm. A villager, brave or foolish, asks the question everyone is thinking. How many will return? Captain Marcus does not hesitate, does not soften the blow. Historical average, 60% survival rate in first year of campaign. Factors include battle casualties, disease, desertion, and death by exposure. The mathematics sinks into the crowd like a stone into water. 5,000 archers mobilized. 60% survival equals 3,000 who come home. 2,000 will die within 1 year. The equivalent of 20 villages this size completely erased. The boy looks at the 29 other conscripts standing near him. Statistically, 12 of us won't come back. He tries to calculate which 12, tries to identify the unlucky ones, and realizes the futility. Luck does not announce itself in advance. You have 3 days to prepare. On the 4th day, we march. Bring your bow, 24 arrows, knife, blanket, water skin. The king provides nothing else. If you lack equipment, acquire it. Desertion is punishable by hanging. 3 days. The boy has 3 days to say goodbye to everything. Evening of the 3rd day, behind the church, where shadows pool and privacy is possible. Emma finds him sitting alone, holding the wooden bird she gave him, turning it over in his fingers like a talisman against fate. You're really going. No choice. She sits beside him. They do not touch. Propriety forbids it even now. Silence stretches between them, heavy with things neither knows how to say. Promise me something. What? Don't make promises you can't keep. Don't tell me you'll come back. Don't tell me we'll marry. Just try to survive. I can promise that. Can you? He looks at her, really looks, trying to memorize every detail, the exact shade of her eyes, the way her hair falls across her forehead, the small scar on her chin from a childhood accident she once told him about, trying to capture this moment so he can carry it through whatever's coming. I'll try. Emma pulls out a small cloth bundle, inside a piece of bread, hard and stale, but it represents one of her few meals for the journey. He takes it, knowing what it costs her. Thank you. Silence again. Neither knows what to say when you might never see each other again, when the future is a vast darkness that swallows all certainty. The bird. Keep it close. I will. Emma stands to leave, pauses, turns back. If you come back different, if the war changes you, I'll still be here. You don't know what I might become. No, but I know what you are now. And I'll remember. She leaves. He watches her go, gripping the wooden bird so tightly it digs into his palm, leaving a small red mark that will fade long before the memory does. That night, final night in the shack. His family sits around the fire pit. Agnes cries quietly. Has been crying on and off for 3 days. Robert is silent for most of the evening, staring into flames. Finally, you'll see things, bad things. Don't let them break you. What if they do? Then you keep walking anyway. His sister Catherine, age 6, is too young to understand. Thinks her brother is going on an adventure. Will you bring me back a present? The boy lies because the truth would mean nothing to her. Yes, something special. He cannot sleep. Lies on his straw mattress, listening to his family breathe, trying to memorize these sounds. His mother's soft snoring, his father's deeper rhythm, his sister's quick child's breathing. This might be the last time I sleep in a bed. The thought arrives unbidden, unwanted, undeniable. He thinks about Emma, about the wooden bird, about the skeletons in the crypt with their twisted spines and their unmarked graves. He thinks about the law that demands his service, the king who sees him as a tool, the war machine that will consume him and spit out whatever remains. Morning comes too quickly. Dawn breaks cold and gray. 30 conscripts gather in the village square, ages 17 to 35. First-timers 22, including the boy. Veterans 8, men who served previous campaigns and survived, though survival seems too generous a word for what they have become. One veteran stands apart from the others. Thomas of York, age 35, 7 campaigns behind him. His left arm bulges with muscle that looks obscene against his thin frame. 3 fingers are missing from his left hand. Frostbite, winter campaign 6 years back. His left eye is milky white. Partial blindness from an infection that nearly killed him. Scars map his face and neck. He walks with a slight limp, favoring his right leg. His spine curves, though not as severely as some. Thomas spots the boy immediately, recognizes the signs. Young, scared, trying desperately to hide it. First campaign? Yes. You'll die or you won't. Odds are about even. Try not to shit yourself when the arrows start flying. The boy manages a weak smile. Thanks for the encouragement. Thomas's expression doesn't change. Encouragement gets you killed. Preparation keeps you alive. Stick with me. I'll teach you what William Blackwood didn't. Captain Marcus rides to the front of the column. We march to Newcastle. 180 miles. We have 9 days. That is 20 miles per day. Anyone who falls behind gets left behind. The army does not wait for stragglers. The march begins. The first 5 miles pass with false energy. First-timers talk, joke nervously, boast about what they will do when they face the Scots. Thomas walks beside the boy in silence, watching the younger men waste breath on words that mean nothing. Give them 3 days. They'll be too exhausted to talk. By mile 10, conversations die. Focus shifts entirely to walking, to the rhythm of feet against road, to the weight of 60 pounds of gear pressing down on shoulders that are already protesting. The boy feels wetness in his boots, blisters forming, filling with fluid, the first stage of damage that will only worsen. By mile 15, the column has stretched thin. Faster walkers pull ahead, slower ones fall behind, struggling to maintain pace. Captain Marcus rides up and down the column on his horse, calling out threats disguised as encouragement. Keep up or get left. The army doesn't wait for weakness. Mile 20 arrives like a prison sentence ending. Camp is made in an open field. No tents. Those are for officers. The men sleep on bare ground, bodies arranged in rough clusters around small fires. The boy removes his boots with shaking hands. His feet are covered in blisters, some already burst in weeping, clear fluid mixed with blood. The pain is sharp and constant. Thomas appears beside him, drops his own pack with the practiced efficiency of someone who has done this too many times. Wrap them. Use strips of cloth from your spare shirt if you have one. Tomorrow will be worse. How much worse? The blisters will pop and bleed, then they'll callus if you're lucky. Then they'll blister again on top of the calluses. After a week, your feet won't feel like feet anymore. Just meat you walk on. Dinner arrives via supply wagon. Hard bread that could crack teeth if bitten wrong. Salted meat of questionable origin. Could be beef, could be horse, could be something no one wants to identify. Thin gruel that is mostly water with occasional grains floating like debris in a stream. The boy forces it down, tastes like dirt and despair, but hunger makes everything palatable. That night, he cannot find comfortable position for sleep. The ground is hard. His body aches in places he did not know could ache. His feet throb with every heartbeat. Around him, other men cough, groan, shift position endlessly. Someone weeps quietly in the darkness. No one comments on it. Everyone pretends not to hear. Day 2, Day 3, Day 4. The days blur into each other, distinguished only by increasing levels of misery. The boy's blisters burst and bleed through his wrappings. His shoulders develop raw spots where the pack straps dig in. His back aches from the constant forward lean required to balance the weight. His legs burn with fatigue that never fully fades overnight. Day 7 brings the first death. A boy named Peter, 16 years old from a neighboring village, has been sick for 2 days. Dysentery from drinking water from a stagnant pond, despite Thomas's warnings to only drink from running streams. Peter is pale, weak, voiding his bowels constantly until there is nothing left but bloody water. He keeps walking because stopping means being left behind, and being left behind means dying alone. Morning of Day 7, Peter collapses mid-stride. Falls face first into mud, his body simply giving out, muscles no longer responding to will. The boy runs toward him, instinct overriding reason. Thomas grabs his arm with iron grip. Don't. He needs help. He's dying. The column doesn't stop for dying men. Captain Marcus rides past Peter's fallen body without slowing his horse. Keep moving. The boy looks back as the column marches forward. Peter is still alive, trying to crawl, one hand reaching out toward the departing soldiers. His mouth moves, but no sound carries. Within minutes, he is too far behind to see clearly. Within an hour, he is forgotten by everyone except the boy, who cannot stop thinking about him dying alone in the mud while crows circle overhead. That night, the question emerges like infection from a wound. What happens to him? Thomas pokes the fire with a stick, sending sparks spiraling upward into darkness. He dies, alone. Then crows and wolves eat what's left. By tomorrow, he'll be bones. No burial, no prayer. War doesn't have time for prayers. Get used to it. The boy lies awake long after others have fallen into exhausted sleep. Thinks about Peter. Thinks about how easily it could have been him. Thinks about how death in war is not glorious or meaningful, but simply a body left behind while the world continues forward without pause. Thomas teaches lessons between miles, knowledge dispensed in short bursts when breath allows. Never drink from still water, only running streams. Still water breeds disease. You saw what it did to Peter. Every night, check your feet. Drain large blisters with a needle. Pack wounds with moss if you can find it. Wrap everything tight. Sleep with your bow inside your shirt, pressed against your body. Men steal weapons to sell. If you lose your bow, you're useless. Useless men get sent to front lines as fodder. This march will kill more men than the first battle. Disease, exhaustion, stupidity. Your job is simple. Walk, eat, sleep, repeat. Don't think about home. Don't think about fear. Just keep moving. The boy absorbs each lesson, files it away in the part of his mind that is learning to think like a soldier rather than a child. Day 9, late afternoon. The column crests a hill, and below them spreads Newcastle muster point. The sight steals breath from lungs. An ocean of men stretches across the landscape, tense for miles, smoke from thousands of campfires rising to create a permanent haze, banners snapping in the wind. The constant low roar of 15,000 voices creating a sound like distant thunder that never stops. Captain Marcus rides to the front of their small column, turns his horse to face them. Total force, 15,000 men. Infantry, 8,000. Cavalry, 2,000. Archers, 5,000. Support staff, 500. Welcome to the King's Army. Thomas's voice is quiet beside the boy. This is where boys become killers. The archers' camp occupies a massive field on the eastern edge of the muster point. 5,000 men organized by region into companies of 200. The boys' company, Yorkshire and surrounding villages, is assigned a section of trampled grass with no shelter, no infrastructure, nothing but ground to sleep on and fire pits to share. Living conditions are barely controlled chaos, no tents except for officers. Sleep on bare ground or on whatever you can scavenge. Campfires shared by 10 men each. Latrines dug as deep trenches that smell like open graves, the stench carrying across camp whenever wind shifts. Food distributed twice daily from supply wagons, the same terrible bread and mystery meat and thin gruel they have eaten for 9 days. That first night in camp, Thomas leads the boy away from the main gathering. They walk in silence until they reach a field on the outskirts. Rows of shallow graves stretch across the ground. Wooden markers thrust into earth, most unmarked. Some with names carved in crude letters. The boy counts, 187 graves. Who are they? Archers who died before we even marched to battle. Disease mostly, dysentery, fever, infected wounds from training, some from accidents. One killed in a knife fight over a dice game. 187 men dead, and we haven't fought yet? That's war. The fighting is just the visible part. The real killer is everything else. Disease, starvation, exhaustion, stupidity. Thomas points to the freshest graves, dirt still dark and loose. These 10 died this week. By the time we march north, there will be 50 more. He turns to face the boy directly, his one good eye holding steady. Battlefield casualties run about 15% in a major battle. Those aren't bad odds if you think about it, but campaign mortality sits at 40% overall. Know why? Because battles last a day. Campaigns last months or years. Every single day is another chance to die from disease, starvation, exposure, accidents, murder, suicide. Some men can't handle what they see and do. They hang themselves or cut their wrists or walk into the river with stones in their pockets. The battle is almost the safest part. The boy stares at the graves, trying to process what 40% means. 2,000 men out of 5,000, nearly half. The odds are worse than he imagined, worse than the captain's sanitized 60% survival rate suggested. They walk back to camp in silence. The boy cannot stop thinking about those graves, about the men buried there, who never even saw combat, who died from the simple act of gathering and waiting. That night, sleep refuses to come. Tomorrow they march toward the Scottish border. Battle could be days away or weeks, but it is coming, inevitable as winter, as death, as all the things humans cannot prevent. He sits by the fire, holding Emma's wooden bird, running his thumb over the carved grooves. Thomas sits down beside him, offers a skin of something that is not water. The boy drinks. Liquid fire burns down his throat, makes his eyes water. Ale, strong and bitter. You're thinking about home. Yes. Thomas takes the skin back, drinks deeply. Don't. Home doesn't exist anymore. Not for you. The boy who left that village is dead. You just don't realize it yet. That's not true, it is. Tomorrow or next week or next month, you'll kill someone. Maybe from 200 yards, maybe close enough to smell their breath. Doesn't matter which. Once you kill, you can't go back. The innocence is gone. The boy dies. What's left is just a soldier who remembers being something else. What if I don't kill anyone? Thomas laughs, harsh sound like breaking glass. Then you'll die. That solves the problem differently. Silence settles between them. The fire pops and crackles. Around them, thousands of men try to sleep, try to forget where they are and what is coming. I had a girl too. Name was Sarah. Promised to marry her when I got back from my first campaign. What happened? I came back. She saw what I'd become. The things I'd done were written on my face, in my eyes, in the way I couldn't touch her without flinching. The way I woke up screaming every night for months. She left, married a farmer who never saw war. I don't blame her. I was a stranger wearing a familiar face. Emma won't leave. Maybe not. But you might wish she would. It's easier to be a monster when no one's waiting for you to be human. Dawn breaks with horn calls that echo across the massive camp. The army mobilizes slowly, 15,000 men gathering equipment, forming ranks, organizing into the marching order that will carry them north toward Scotland. The boy straps on his gear with hands that shake slightly. Bow across his back, 24 arrows in quiver, knife at belt. Small pack with Emma's bread, now rock hard and inedible but kept anyway, and the wooden bird that represents everything he is leaving behind. Thomas checks his own equipment with the practiced efficiency of someone for whom this is routine. Ready? No? Good. That means you're smart. Come on, they join the column. 5,000 archers marching in loose formation, companies kept roughly together, but without the rigid structure of infantry. They walk north. The landscape changes gradually. Rolling farmland, giving way to rougher terrain, fewer villages, more forest. They are approaching the border country, the contested land where England and Scotland have been killing each other for generations. 5 days of marching, the routine becomes familiar. Walk until feet are numb, stop for brief rest, walk again, make camp, eat terrible food, sleep poorly, wake and repeat. The boy's body adapts. His feet toughen, his legs strengthen. He learns to distribute the pack weight more efficiently. He learns which thoughts to think and which to avoid. Day 5, afternoon. Scouts return with news that ripples through the column like wind through wheat. Scottish forces have fortified a position 3 miles ahead. Numbers estimated at 3,000, 1,500 infantry, 800 cavalry, 700 archers. Captain Marcus rides down the column giving orders. Tomorrow you earn your keep. Form ranks at dawn. That night no one sleeps well. The boy lies on his back staring at stars, trying not to think about what tomorrow means, trying not to imagine arrows flying, men dying, his own death approaching like an appointment he cannot miss. Thomas sits nearby, sharpening his knife with a whetstone, the rhythmic scraping sound oddly comforting. First battle nerves. Everyone gets them. How do I stop shaking? You don't. You shake until the first arrow leaves your bow. Then training takes over and the shaking stops. Your body knows what to do even when your mind is screaming, "What if I freeze?" Then you die and someone else takes your place. The army doesn't stop because one archer fails. 5,000 bows firing. One doesn't matter. The words should be comforting. They are not. Dawn arrives in mist and cold. The army deploys across an open field that slopes gently upward toward a ridgeline where the Scots have positioned. Distance, approximately 600 yards. Visibility, perhaps 200 yards through the mist. The archers form 3 ranks. Front rank kneels. Second rank stands. Third rank stands slightly back. The boy is in the second rank, position 47 from the left. Thomas is beside him, position 48. Around them, 5,000 men arrange themselves with the precision that comes from endless drilling, from training that has become muscle memory. They wait. 90 minutes of standing in formation while officers position forces, while cavalry maneuvers, while the machinery of war grinds slowly forward. The boy's hands shake. He tries to steady them. Fails. His breathing is too fast, too shallow. Hyperventilation making his vision blur at the edges. His bladder demands attention, but there is no time, no opportunity, no mercy for bodily needs. Thomas grabs his shoulder, grips hard. Breathe. Slow. In through nose, out through mouth. You've fired 50,000 arrows in training. This is just number 50,001. Same motion, same release. The mist begins lifting. Across the field, the Scottish army becomes visible. Dark mass of men arranged on the ridge, banners flying, clan symbols the boy cannot identify. Horses moving, cavalry positioning on the flanks. Sunlight glinting off spear points and helmets and the sharp edges of weapons designed for killing. The boy's terror is complete now. Overwhelming, all-consuming. He wants to run, wants to throw down his bow and flee, but there is nowhere to run to. Desertion means execution, and his legs will not obey even if his mind commands retreat. Captain Marcus's voice carries across the archer line, trained projection that reaches every ear. Archers, prepare! 5,000 hands reach for quivers. The sound is like wind through leaves, cloth and leather, and wood moving together. Knock. The boy's fingers are numb as he notches an arrow. The fletching is damp from morning dew. He worries briefly that it will affect the flight, then realizes how absurd it is to worry about such details when men are about to die. Draw! He pulls the string back. His muscles scream immediate protest. The bow feels heavier than it ever has, like pulling against iron, against stone, against the weight of the world itself. He gets the string to his ear, anchor point at corner of mouth, nose touching string, and holds. His arms shake violently. Around him, 5,000 men in identical stance, wall of drawn bows waiting for the word that will transform them from men into instruments of death. Loose, the boy releases. His arrow leaps upward, joining 4,999 others. For 8 seconds, the sky turns black. A cloud of arrows arcing upward in perfect trajectory, reaching apex, beginning descent. The boy watches mesmerized. It is beautiful in a terrible way. Organized violence on a scale that transforms individual deaths into abstraction. The arrows land 600 yards away. Distant screams carry across the field. Men falling, horses rearing. But from this distance, it is not quite real, like watching a play, a performance. Something happening to people who are not fully people, but rather distant figures without faces or names or lives. Knock, draw, loose. The boy fires again, reaches for another arrow, fires. The rhythm takes over. Training supersedes thought. His hands know what to do, even as his mind retreats into protective numbness. Grab arrow from quiver, 2 seconds. Knock to string, 1 second. Draw to anchor, 1 second. Aim high, 1 second. Release, immediate. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Time loses meaning. Could be minutes, could be hours. The world narrows to the mechanical sequence of movements. Grab, knock, draw, loose. His quiver empties slowly. 24 arrows becoming 20, becoming 15, becoming 10. After what feels like both seconds and eternity, his fingers begin to fail. The calluses that took years to build tear away under constant friction. Blood runs down his hand, makes the bow slippery. His shoulders burn with pain that transcends muscle fatigue, feels like tendons tearing from bone. His back locks in agony from holding stance. Breathing becomes ragged, desperate, never quite enough air. Thomas continues firing beside him with mechanical efficiency, born of 7 campaigns. 7 years of doing exactly this. Don't stop. Wipe blood on your pants. Keep shooting. The boy obeys, wipes his hand, leaving dark smear on already filthy cloth. Reaches for another arrow. His quiver holds 8 remaining. The Scottish lines are advancing now. Infantry moving forward in organized ranks. Cavalry preparing on the flanks. They are closer, 400 yards, then 300. The boy can see individual faces now. Men running toward death or glory or whatever they believe waits for them. Some falling as English arrows find them. Some screaming though the sound does not carry. Some simply collapsing without drama, without ceremony, dead before they hit the ground. Target cavalry, rapid fire. The boy pivots, aims at approaching horses. Fires, misses, fires again. Hits a horse, the animal goes down, throwing its rider. Fires again and again, mechanical now. Empty of thought or feeling or anything except the motion that training has burned into his muscles. His quiver is empty. He reaches, finds nothing. Thomas's voice cuts through the chaos. Drop bows, knives out. Scottish cavalry has broken through the left flank. They are coming uphill fast. Mounted men with swords raised, faces twisted in war cries that finally carry across the distance. 50 yards. Then 30. The boy drops his bow, draws his knife, 6 inches of steel that suddenly seems impossibly small. A toy. Inadequate. Useless against mounted men in armor. A rider comes straight at him. Young man, maybe 18. Leather armor, helmet too large, bouncing as he rides. He swings his sword downward in slash that has more enthusiasm than technique. The boy dodges left, too slow. The blade catches his right cheek, opens gash from ear to jaw. Pain explodes white-hot across his face. Blood pours down, into his mouth, hot and metallic and bitter. Survival instinct overrides thought. He lunges forward inside the rider's guard where the sword cannot reach, drives his knife upward into the gap between helmet and armor. The blade sinks into neck with resistance that feels like cutting tough meat. Flesh parting around steel, blood erupting hot over his hand. The rider makes choking sound. His eyes go wide. Not anger, not rage, just shock and terror, and the sudden understanding that death has arrived. He tries to speak. Words emerge in Gaelic that the boy cannot understand, but the meaning is clear. Mather, mother. They fall together from the horse, hitting ground hard. The boy lands on top, knife still buried in the rider's neck. Hot blood pulses over his hand with the rider's failing heartbeat. The boy stabs again, and again, and again. Loses count, loses control. Stabbing long after the rider stops moving, long after the eyes go blank, and the blood stops flowing, and only dead meat remains beneath him. Strong hands grab his collar, yank him backward. Thomas's voice cuts through the red haze. "He's dead! Stop!" The boy looks down at what he has done. The rider's face is pulped, unrecognizable, destroyed by repeated stabbing that went far beyond necessity. His own hands are covered in blood to the elbows. His face is splattered. Blood in his mouth, his eyes, his hair. He can taste it, can smell it, copper and salt and something darker. He gags, vomits, thin gruel and bile spilling onto ground, already soaked with blood. Good kill. Now grab his sword and get back in formation. The boy stares at Thomas, cannot process the words. Thomas slaps him across the face. Now! The boy bends down, pulls sword from the dead rider's hand. It is heavy, unfamiliar, wrong in his grip. He stumbles back toward the archer line, legs barely supporting him. The cavalry has retreated. English infantry has moved forward to engage Scottish infantry in melee. The immediate threat has passed. The boy drops the sword, retrieves his bow from where he dropped it, scavenges arrows from the ground, mixture of English and Scottish shafts, feathers different but function identical. He begins firing again. Mechanical, automatic, empty. 3 hours after the battle started, Captain Marcus calls cease fire. The Scottish forces are retreating, broken, routed, leaving their dead and wounded on the field. The boy lowers his bow. His arms shake so violently he can barely hold the weapon. Around him, archers are doing the same, lowering bows, sitting down where they stand, some vomiting, some weeping, some simply staring at nothing. The field is carpeted with bodies. The boy forces himself to look. Estimated 600 Scottish dead, 150 English. Among the archers, 23 dead, 47 wounded. The smell arrives like physical assault. Blood and shit and death. Men void bowels and bladders in terror, in dying. The stench is overwhelming, makes breathing an act of will. The boy vomits again, though nothing remains in his stomach. The sounds persist, wounded screaming, crying, begging. Some calling for mothers in English, in Gaelic, in languages the boy can't identify. Some just moaning, animal sounds of agony beyond words. English soldiers move among the wounded with grim efficiency. English wounded are carried to healers' tents. Scottish wounded have their throats cut. Mercy killings, though mercy seems too generous a word for the casual brutality with which it is administered. The boy watches a soldier kneel beside a wounded Scot. Young man, maybe 20, arrow through his stomach, dying slowly. The soldier's knife is quick across the throat. The dying man's eyes go from pain to nothing in seconds. Thomas finds the boy standing motionless, still holding his bow, blood drying on his face and hands. "You alive?" The boy's voice emerges hollow, distant, like it belongs to someone else. "I think so. You're covered in blood." "Yours or his?" The boy looks down at himself. Cannot distinguish. Blood everywhere. "Come on, we need to check you." Thomas leads him to a quieter area away from the main carnage, makes him sit, examines him with practiced hands that have done this many times before. Face wound needs stitching. Hands are torn up but nothing permanent. Shoulders probably strained. Hard to tell with adrenaline still flowing. He pulls out needle and thread from his personal medical kit. "This will hurt. Don't move." Thomas stitches the face wound without anesthetic. 11 stitches pulling torn flesh back together. The boy bites down on leather strap to keep from screaming. Silent agony that lasts forever and is over in minutes. The night that follows is sleepless. Every time the boy closes his eyes, images assault him. The rider's face, the word mater, the feeling of knife sinking into flesh, the hot rush of blood, the eyes going from alive to dead. He cannot escape it, cannot stop seeing it, cannot stop feeling the weight of what he has done. He clutches Emma's wooden bird. It is sticky with blood. He tries to clean it with water from his skin, scrubbing with his fingers, but blood has seeped into the carved grooves. He cannot get it all out. The bird that represented home and hope and innocence is now marked by death, stained, ruined, like him. Thomas sits beside him at the fire, doesn't speak for a long time. Finally, "First kill? Yes. You'll never forget him. His face will visit you in dreams for years, maybe forever. How do you live with it?" Thomas stares into flames. "You don't." "Not really. You build walls, thick ones, stone and mortar, and lies. You tell yourself it was him or you. You tell yourself you had no choice. You tell yourself 100 stories that almost feel true if you repeat them enough. Eventually you half believe them. That's the best you get." Silence stretches. Fire crackles. "I've killed 43 men in close combat. Probably killed 100 more with arrows, but those don't count the same. You don't see their faces. Don't hear their last words. The close ones, though. I remember every face." The boy doesn't respond. What is there to say? That makes it better? It doesn't. That makes it worse? It does, but saying so changes nothing. Morning brings new horror. Captain Marcus assembles the archers with announcement that transforms survivors into scavengers. The king's coffers are depleted. Wages are delayed indefinitely. If you want payment, take it from the dead. This is your right of salvage. Veterans move immediately with practiced efficiency. First-timers hesitate, caught between need and the last remnants of conscience. The boy stands frozen until Thomas pushes him forward. "Either you take it or someone else will. Dead men have no use for coin." The first body is a Scottish soldier, face down in mud, back bristling with arrow shafts like grotesque quills. The boy turns him over, face frozen in expression of pain, mouth open, eyes staring at nothing. He searches pockets with shaking hands. Finds 2 copper coins and a small knife. Takes both. Feels like theft. Feels like desecration. Feels like crossing a line he cannot uncross. Second body has no face. Arrow impact destroyed everything above the jaw. The boy forces himself to search anyway. Leather pouch with 1 silver coin. He takes the coin, leaves the blood-soaked pouch. Third body wears boots better than his own. The boy removes them. They are caked with dried blood, stiff with it, but they are intact and his feet are still bleeding through the rags he calls boots. He takes them. Seventh body presents a moral test he knows he is about to fail. A severed arm lies separate from its body. Artillery damage. Clean separation at the shoulder. On one finger, a silver ring. Simple band with engraving inside that reads, Forever. M. The boy tries to remove the ring. It won't slide off. Rigor mortis has set in. Finger swollen, flesh resisting. Thomas appears beside him. Take the finger. What? That ring is worth 3 months' wages. You heard the captain. Take the whole finger. Deal with the ring later. The boy stares at the severed arm, at the ring, at the choice before him. Walk away and maintain some fragment of humanity, or take the finger and survive. He takes the finger, wraps it in cloth, puts it in his pack. That moment, that choice, is when something fundamental breaks inside. A wall crumbles, a boundary dissolves. He has become someone who cuts fingers off corpses for profit. Someone who loots the dead without flinching. Someone the boy who left the village would not recognize. By midday, his pack is heavy with stolen goods. 3 copper coins, 1 silver coin, severed finger with ring, a sword, boots, knife, leather vest with 2 arrow holes but still functional. He has taken these from dead men who had families, lives, hopes that ended in mud and blood. Captain Marcus inspects everyone's haul, takes officer's share, 20% of all coin, any noble weapons, valuables above certain threshold. The boy's finger remains hidden, tucked deep in his pack where inspection does not reach. That night alone, he takes out the finger. It has begun to smell, rot setting in despite the cold. He uses his knife to cut around the ring, separating it from decomposing flesh. The ring comes free. He washes it in stream water until it gleams, holds it to firelight, reads the inscription, Forever. M. Questions assault him. Who was M? Wife? Betrothed? Does she know he is dead? Will she ever know what happened to this ring? He pockets it next to Emma's wooden bird. 2 tokens. One from home, representing love and hope. One from war, representing theft and death and the person he has become. He wonders which represents his true self now. Years grind forward with relentless weight. Summer campaigns marching into Scotland to raid and burn and kill. Winter camps where disease kills more men than combat ever does. Spring preparations replacing the dead with new recruits who look younger each year. The cycle repeats. Battle follows battle. The boy stops counting after 13. Age 18. Siege of Stirling Castle. 6 weeks of firing at defenders on walls. Shoulder dislocates when he falls carrying arrow bundles. Healer shoves it back in, agonizing pop, and wraps it tight. The shoulder never heals properly. Pops out regularly now. Chronic instability that means every draw carries risk. Age 19. Skirmish at River Forth. The boy kills his second man in close combat. Scottish archer who comes at him with knife. Less traumatic than the first. The walls are working. He is numbing. Age 21. The infection arrives as consequence of minor wound. Scottish arrow catches his left thigh, tears muscle, leaves 2-inch gash that seems insignificant. Within a week, the wound is red, hot, oozing pus. Flesh around it turning gray-black. Gangrene beginning its slow consumption. Brother Marcus, the army healer, examines with eyes that have seen this progression too many times. Gangrene, early stage. If we don't cut out the infection, you lose the leg. Cut it out how? I heat a knife. Cut away dead tissue. Pack the wound with dung poultice. Maybe you survive. Maybe 70-30 odds. Without treatment, you're dead in 2 weeks. No anesthetic. Cannot spare it for common soldier. Brother Marcus heats the knife in fire until blade glows red. 4 men hold the boy down. He bites leather straps so hard his teeth crack. The knife cuts into his thigh, removes black flesh chunk by chunk, while the boy screams through clenched teeth, and darkness swims at the edges of vision. He blacks out twice. They wake him with cold water each time. The cutting continues. 15 minutes that last forever. Brother Marcus packs the wound with mixture of honey, cow dung, and herbs, whose names he does not share. Wraps the leg tight in cloth strips. Stay off it for 3 days. If you walk, it won't heal. The boy is left in the healer's tent. Around him, men dying from various wounds and diseases. One dies each night. Bodies dragged out each morning to add to the ever-growing grave count. Day 3, his fever breaks. The infection recedes. Brother Marcus examines the wound with something approaching approval. You're lucky. God favors you, or the devil isn't ready yet. The boy rejoins his unit with massive scar on his thigh and limp that will never fully disappear. Age 24. The village raid that destroys the last remnants of whatever humanity remains. Orders come down. Scottish village 5 miles north harbors rebels. Pacify it. Everyone knows what pacify means. The village holds perhaps 200 people. 50 men, mostly farmers. 80 women, 70 children, 20 elderly. Resistance lasts 10 minutes. Farmers with pitchforks against soldiers with swords and armor. Massacre follows with inevitable efficiency. The boy does not participate in killing civilians, but he watches. Watches a mother holding a baby get speared through, both dying together. Watches an old man beaten to death with clubs, 8 blows, conscious for 6. Watches a teenage girl dragged into a barn, hears her screaming, then silence. He stands, does nothing, says nothing. Silence is participation. Inaction is complicity. A root cellar door is ajar. The boy opens it. Inside, a Scottish child, age 8, hiding, terrified, crying silently. The choice arrives stark and simple. Report the child. Soldier will kill him. Close the door and walk away. Small mercy that changes nothing but means everything. The boy closes the door, walks away, says nothing. That night he sits apart from camp. Cannot eat, cannot speak. Holds his knife to his own throat and seriously considers ending what he has become. Thomas finds him, takes the knife away. Don't. If you want to die, do it in battle. At least make it mean something. I'm a monster. Yes, we all are. The only choice is whether you can live with it. Can you? Thomas pauses. Honest. No, but I keep breathing anyway. Age 26. A scribe passes through camp, offers to write letters for 2 silver coins each. The boy pays, dictates 3 sentences. Dear Emma, I'm alive. Wait for me. What he doesn't write: I've killed 17 men in close combat. I've looted hundreds of corpses. I watched children murdered and did nothing. The boy you remember no longer exists. I might not be worth waiting for. The scribe seals the letter, promises to send it. The boy never knows if it arrives. Winter of his 27th year, Thomas dies. Chronic cough worsening for weeks until he can barely stand. Fever sets in. Within days, he is bedridden. The boy sits with him that final night. I'm dying. Don't say that. I'm dying. You know it. Let's not pretend. Thomas's voice is weak, raspy, barely audible. You've become a good archer, good soldier. You taught me to survive. That's all anyone can teach in war. Pause, labored breathing. Do you still have the girl? Emma. I sent a letter. Don't know if she got it. If she's smart, she moved on. That's harsh. It's realistic. We're not men anymore. We're ghosts. Even if we go home, we're not there. Not really. Thomas dies that night in his sleep. The boy finds him in mourning. Body cold, rigor mortis setting in. He sits beside the corpse for an hour, silent. Tears dried up years ago, leaving only hollow ache where grief should be. Thomas is buried in mass grave with 40 other men who died that winter. No marker, no ceremony, just hole in ground covered with earth. Age 28, spring. Commander Marcus inspects troops, stops at the boy, examines what remains. Bent spine, scarred face, gnarled hands, body that looks 50 though only 28 years have passed. How old are you? 28, sir. You look 50. How many campaigns? 11, sir. You're done. Discharged. 2 broken for service. Payment, 5 silver coins for 11 years of service. No pension, no gratitude. Keep personal weapons and looted gear. That's it? 11 years and 5 coins? You're alive. That's more payment than most get. Dismissed. The boy walks home alone, 180 miles over 3 weeks, limping, coughing blood, eating scraps, passing other discharged veterans who are equally broken, equally discarded. They do not speak to each other. What would they say? He talks to himself, holds conversations with dead Thomas in his head. The voices of the dead grow louder than the voices of the living. He crests the hill overlooking his village. 14 years since he left. The village looks unchanged, but he is unrecognizable. Twisted, scarred, broken, transformed into something that barely qualifies as human. He walks down toward his family shack. People stare but do not recognize him. His mother, Agnes, is outside hanging laundry. She sees him, stares, does not recognize her own son. Mother. She drops the laundry, gasps, runs to him, embraces him while crying. He does not cry, cannot anymore. His father emerges, stares at what war has made of his boy. Is it really you? The boy's voice is hollow, scraped raw. What's left of me? Agnes cannot stop touching his face, his arms, as if physical contact will confirm what her eyes struggle to believe. Her fingers trace the scar running from ear to jaw, the lines that make him look decades older than his 28 years. She weeps without sound, tears running unchecked while her hands map the damage war has carved into her son. Robert stands in the doorway, weathered face unreadable. He has aged too, 60 now, bent from field work, missing more teeth. But beside what has happened to his son, Robert's aging appears natural, merciful even. He does not speak. What words exist for this? Catherine appears from behind the shack. 16 years old now, no longer the child who asked for presents. She stops when she sees him, hand flying to mouth. She doesn't recognize him either until Agnes speaks his relation to her, and even then confusion clouds her features because surely this cannot be her brother. Surely war could not have done this. Inside the shack, nothing has changed. Same packed dirt floor, same leaking roof, same smell of poverty and survival. But the unchanged nature makes everything worse. The world remains static while he was transformed into something barely human. Agnes prepares food though he has no appetite. Thin soup, hard bread, the same meals he left behind 14 years ago. He forces down what he can, each swallow an act of will. His stomach has shrunk from years of campaign rations. Rich food, if this could be called rich, makes him nauseous. That night, sleeping indoors feels wrong. The walls press too close. The roof overhead triggers panic he cannot name. He lies on the straw mattress where he slept as a child, but sleep refuses to come. Every sound makes him reach for weapons that are not beside him. Every shadow contains enemies. Around midnight, he gives up, takes his blanket to the barn, sleeps there among the chickens and the familiar smell of animals and hay. Morning brings villagers. Word has spread. Robert's son has returned from war. They come to see, driven by curiosity and the human need to witness disaster. They stand at a distance, staring, whispering among themselves. Some remember the boy who left. None recognize the man who returned. Old William's widow approaches, her own husband having been an archer who died at 41. She looks at him with eyes that have seen this before, that understand what others cannot. You have the archer's curse. I saw it in my William. The body breaks, but the mind breaks worse. She doesn't wait for response, just nods and walks away, her recognition more terrible than the stares of those who don't understand. 3 days pass before Emma comes. 3 days during which the boy, he still thinks of himself this way, cannot reconcile the term man with what he has become, stays mostly in the barn, avoiding people, avoiding questions, avoiding the crushing weight of trying to be normal. She finds him there on the 4th morning. He is attempting to repair a chicken coop, work his gnarled hands can barely manage. He hears footsteps, turns, sees her standing in the doorway with light behind her creating silhouette that could be memory or ghost, or something his damaged mind has conjured. Emma. Her voice is quiet, testing the name like it might shatter. He stands slowly, pain shooting through his hip and back. The movement makes him look older, more broken. She steps forward into the barn's dim interior, and her face comes clear. She is 30 now, no longer the girl who gave him a wooden bird. Life has marked her too. Lines around her eyes, calluses on her hands from forge work. The subtle weathering that comes from surviving in a world that demands constant labor. But she is still Emma, still herself, while he is not himself at all. She stops 3 feet away, maintaining distance that feels both respectful and afraid. Her eyes move over him, taking inventory of scars, twisted spine, overdeveloped left arm, the limp that is now permanent. He watches her face, waiting for the horror, the disgust, the inevitable recoiling. What he sees instead is something more complex. Recognition of what war costs. Sadness that is not pity. And beneath it all, a question she is trying not to ask. Is there anything left of the boy I knew? I got your letter. 2 years ago, just 3 sentences. I didn't know what else to say. She reaches into her pocket, pulls out the wooden bird he left behind. She has kept it all these years. He pulls his own from his pocket, the one she gave him, still stained with blood he never fully cleaned away. They stand holding these twin tokens, evidence of a promise made by children who did not understand what time and war would take. I waited. Her voice is steady, but something underneath trembles. The words she doesn't say hang between them. I waited, but I don't know if I was waiting for you or for someone who no longer exists. I shouldn't have asked you to. You didn't ask. I chose. They marry 3 weeks later, not because love demands it, but because the promise was made, and neither knows how to be the kind of person who breaks promises, even promises that should perhaps be broken. The ceremony is brief, performed by the village priest, with only their families present. No celebration, no joy, just words spoken and agreements sealed, and two people trying to build something from the ruins of who they used to be. The wedding night is disaster he should have anticipated. They lie beside each other in the small room Robert has partitioned off in the shack, cloth hanging, providing illusion of privacy. Emma reaches for him tentatively, and he flinches before he can stop himself. The flinch becomes full recoil when she persists. His breathing accelerates. Sweat breaks across his skin. Panic floods through him, primal and overwhelming. She pulls back immediately. I'm sorry, no, I'm... He cannot finish the sentence. Cannot explain that her touch triggered something. That intimacy feels like vulnerability. That vulnerability feels like death. They lie in darkness, not touching, the space between them filled with things neither can name. Eventually, Emma's breathing steadies into sleep. He lies awake until dawn, every shadow a threat, every sound an approaching enemy. Morning brings the pretense of normalcy. Emma rises early, works alongside her father at the forge. The boy, he must start thinking of himself as a man, must start using adult terms, even though he feels ancient and childish simultaneously. Attempts to work. His body betrays him at every turn. Cannot lift heavy objects without his shoulder dislocating. Cannot grip tools properly with hands that are more scar tissue than flesh. Cannot stand for long periods without his back seizing into immobility. He finds work as Fletcher, making arrows. Irony is not lost on him, still serving the bow after everything. His damaged hands are still skilled enough for this, selecting shafts, attaching fletching, testing balance. Each arrow he creates is perfect, because perfection was beaten into him through a decade of training. But the work pays poorly, barely enough to contribute to the household. Emma works twice as hard to compensate. She never complains, never suggests he is inadequate, never shows anything but patient acceptance. Her patience makes everything worse. He wants her to be angry, to acknowledge that she married a broken thing that cannot fulfill even basic expectations. Instead, she maintains steady kindness that feels like pity and makes him want to scream. Nights are the worst. He cannot sleep beside her without nightmares erupting. Dreams where he is back in Scotland, firing arrows into masses of men, feeling his knife sink into flesh, hearing the screams, tasting blood. He wakes choking on screams he cannot release, drenched in sweat, reaching for weapons. After a month, he moves his blanket to the barn permanently, tells Emma it is better this way. She accepts this too without argument, though he sees something die in her eyes, Some last hope that perhaps they could be normal, that perhaps the promise could become something real. The village watches their failure with the resignation of people who have seen this pattern before. Archer returns broken. Wife endures. Marriage becomes endurance rather than partnership. Story old as war itself. Months grind into seasons. The boy, man, survives but does not live. He makes arrows, sleeps in the barn, avoids people, drinks when he can afford ale, though he cannot afford it. Ale dulls the edges, makes the memories less sharp, the nightmares less vivid. It also makes him angry. The anger emerges in unpredictable bursts. A loud noise makes him spin, fists raised. Someone approaching from behind makes him lash out before thought intervenes. He gets into fights. Stupid, pointless fights over perceived insults, over nothing, over the simple fact that violence is the only language his body still fluently speaks. After he breaks another man's jaw in a tavern fight over a spilled drink, the village begins avoiding him actively. Children are warned to stay away. Women cross to the other side of the road when they see him coming. He becomes the village cautionary tale, the mad archer, the broken veteran, the man ruined by war. Only Emma remains constant. She brings him food even though he pushes her away. She treats his injuries even though he earned them through stupidity. She maintains the fiction that they are married even though they live separate lives. He does not deserve her constancy. This knowledge sits in his gut like poison. 2 years pass. Emma is 32. He is 30. The gap between their biological ages feels like decades. She still looks like herself, weathered but whole. He looks like he should be dead. Bent spine making him walk hunched over, face scarred beyond recognition, hands gnarled claws, every movement accompanied by grinding pain. One morning Emma finds him in the barn and tells him with voice that attempts steadiness, "I'm pregnant." The words hit like arrows. Pregnancy means they did have one night that worked, one night when his body cooperated despite the nightmares and the fear. He doesn't remember it clearly, too drunk probably. Defenses lowered enough that instinct could operate, but the consequence stands before him now in Emma's steady gaze. He searches for the right word. Good. Is it? Her question contains no accusation, just genuine uncertainty. Is bringing a child into this marriage, into this life, good? He has no answer. The truth, that he doesn't know if he can be a father, doesn't know if something this broken should reproduce, doesn't know if he wants to curse another generation with whatever darkness lives in his blood, is too terrible to speak aloud. 7 months later, Emma delivers their first son in the same room where the boy himself was born. The midwife is old Mary's daughter, old Mary having died the previous winter. The labor is long, difficult. He paces outside, useless, listening to Emma's cries through the wall, each scream driving spikes of guilt deeper. When the baby finally emerges and the midwife brings him out to announce a son, healthy, strong, the boy, man, father now, though that term fits even worse than the others, looks at the red-faced infant and feels mostly terror. Terror that he will fail this small thing. Terror that war has hollowed him out so completely that nothing remains to give. They name him William, after Master Archer William Blackwood, though neither says this reasoning aloud. Emma suggests it. He agrees because he cannot think of better name, and because naming the child after the man who taught him to kill feels appropriately cursed. William grows despite his father's inadequacy. The boy, he has given up trying to call himself man or father, accepts that he will always be the boy even as his body ages past any reasonable definition of youth. Watches from distance. Emma raises William with competence, born from necessity. He remains peripheral, present but not participating, a ghost haunting his own life. When William is 2, Emma delivers their second son. They name him Robert after his grandfather. When William is 4 and Robert 2, Emma delivers their daughter. They name her Agnes after his mother. 3 children who deserve a father and have instead a broken veteran who makes arrows and drinks and wakes screaming from nightmares he cannot explain. The day William turns 7, the boy knows what is coming, has known for 7 years, dreading it with certainty that makes the waiting worse than the arrival. The law has not changed, will never change. All able-bodied males must train with the longbow beginning at age 7. That Sunday, he walks William to the butts. Same training ground where he learned. Same straw targets. Same wooden racks of small bows. Master Archer is someone new. William Blackwood long dead, replaced by another veteran with similar damage. The new Master Archer has only one arm. The left one torn off in battle, but he can still demonstrate with the right, can still teach, can still break children into weapons. 30 boys line up to receive their training bows. William is among them. 7 years old, small for his age from marginal nutrition, but strong enough, healthy enough, able-bodied enough to satisfy the law's requirements. The boy watches his son grip the bow for the first time, watches him attempt to draw and fail, watches the confusion and frustration cross William's young face, watches the master archer show him again, correct his stance, demonstrate the motion, watches his son's hands begin to blister after the first dozen attempts. He wants to intervene, wants to stop this, wants to grab William and run, flee England entirely, go somewhere the law cannot reach. But there is nowhere the law cannot reach. An intervention would mean only that William suffers worse consequences, sent to mines or quarries where death comes even faster than archery promises. That night, William shows him his blistered hands with tears running down his face. It hurts. The boy cleans the wounds with honey, wraps them in cloth strips, the same treatment his mother gave him at 7. I know it hurts. It will hurt for a long time. But you have to keep going. Why? Because the law says so, and because stopping means worse. William looks at him with eyes that still hold innocence, still believe the world should make sense. Will it always hurt? The boy considers lying, decides William deserves truth. Yes, your hands will hurt, then your shoulders, then your back. Your body will change in ways you won't understand until it's too late to stop. You'll become something you didn't choose to be, and if you survive long enough, you'll be called to war, and war will take whatever's left. William processes this with the seriousness of a child confronting adult reality, like it did to you. Yes, exactly like it did to me. William touches his father's twisted left arm, the grotesque overdevelopment that makes it look more like disease than muscle. Will I look like you? The boy's throat closes. He cannot speak for a moment. Finally, probably, if you're unlucky enough to live that long. Emma appears in the doorway, has been listening. She looks at him with something that might be anger, might be grief, might be the final breaking of whatever hope she had been maintaining. She takes William to bed without speaking. The pattern repeats. Every Sunday, William marches to training. Every Sunday, his body begins its slow transformation. By age 9, his left arm is noticeably thicker. By 10, his spine begins curving. By 12, the damage is undeniable. He walks with developing hunch. His hands are grooved and calloused. His shoulders overdeveloped in asymmetrical ways that mirror his father's deformities. Robert begins training when he turns 7. 2 years later, Agnes watches her brothers march to training and knows her sons are being slowly destroyed by the same mechanism that destroyed their father. The boy sees himself replicated in William's suffering, sees the pattern repeating with mechanical precision. History devouring new generation with same appetite it devoured his. He is powerless to stop it. The law is absolute. The king demands his archers. Children are fed into the machine that produces them. When William turns 12, the same age when the boy transitioned to warbows, Brother Thomas's successor examines him, takes him down to the crypt where the skeletons still lie on their stone slabs. Old William, Harold the Archer, young Geoffrey, and now a new one, a 4th skeleton added to the collection. Master Archer William Blackwood himself, dead at 52, 2 years prior, his twisted bones displayed as teaching tool for new generations. Brother Thomas's successor explains to William what awaits him: chronic pain by 20, crippling disability by 30, early death by 40. All statistics unchanged, all patterns unbroken, all suffering transferred from father to son without mercy or deviation. That night, William comes to the barn where his father sleeps, sits down beside him without speaking. They sit in darkness while chickens murmur and shift on their roosts. The healer showed me the skeletons, showed me what I'll become. The boy has no comfort to offer, cannot lie and say it will be different, cannot promise the pattern will break, cannot do anything except acknowledge the truth. I know. Why does the law demand this? Why do they destroy us? Because England needs archers, needs them more than it needs us to be whole. We're tools. Tools that take years to make but are cheaper than professional soldiers. Tools that can be discarded when they break because more are always being made. William is silent for a long time. Then, will I die in war like you almost did? Probably. Or you'll come back broken like I did. Either way, the boy you are now is already dying. The training is killing him slowly. By the time you're called to service, he'll be gone. What's left will be a weapon that happens to breathe. The words are cruel. The boy knows this. Knows he should soften them, should provide hope even if false. But William deserves truth more than comfort, deserves to understand exactly what is being done to him. Do you wish you'd never been born? The boy considers the question seriously. Does he wish he'd never existed? Would non-existence be preferable to this half-life of pain and nightmares and failure? Sometimes, most times. But then you wouldn't exist either. And Robert and Agnes wouldn't exist. And that seems wrong too. So maybe I wish I'd been born somewhere else. Some place without the law, some place where children aren't turned into weapons. But wishing doesn't change anything. We are where we are. William leans against him, small body against broken one, and they sit together in shared understanding of the curse that passes from generation to generation, unbreakable as long as England demands its archers. The years that follow are slow erosion. The boy, 40 years old now, though he has long since stopped bothering with the fiction that age matters more than damage, continues making arrows, continues surviving, continues being peripheral to his own life. Emma ages with grace he cannot match. She is 38 but looks younger, maintaining herself through constant work and the simple fact that war did not destroy her from the inside. Their marriage is accommodation more than partnership. They share house but not bed, share children but not intimacy, share life but not lives. She has given up trying to reach him. He has given up believing he can be reached. They exist in parallel, occasionally intersecting but never truly connecting. William turns 15, then 16, then 17. The recruiters will come soon. Everyone knows this. Scotland and England are always at war, have been for generations, will be for generations more. The appetite for archers never diminishes. William's name will be called as certainly as his father's was. The boy tries to teach William what Thomas taught him: how to wrap feet to prevent blisters, how to find drinkable water, how to sleep with eyes open, how to build walls inside yourself thick enough that killing doesn't destroy you entirely. Whether this helps or simply prepares William for suffering the boy could have prevented by fleeing years ago remains unclear. Robert begins transitioning to war bows at 12. His body breaks in the same pattern: shoulder injuries, spine curving, fingers grooved and damaged. Agnes watches her brothers being destroyed and knows that when she marries, if she marries, her husband will likely be an archer, broken or soon to be broken, and her sons will face the same pattern. The curse extends beyond individual lives, becomes generational inheritance more certain than property or name. The boy is 45 when his body finally admits defeat. He has been dying slowly for years. Cough bringing up blood-flecked phlegm, chest pain that makes breathing labor, joints so arthritic that every movement grinds bone against bone. The healer, Brother Thomas's successor now, examines him with resignation born from seeing this pattern countless times. Your lungs are failing, scarred from years of breathing in smoke, dust, disease. Your heart is weak. Your joints are destroyed. You have a year if you're fortunate. 6 months more likely. The boy receives this news with equanimity that comes from having wanted to die for decades. Finally, after all these years of existing in this broken shell, permission to stop. He does not tell Emma immediately. What would be the point? His dying has been in progress since he was 7 years old, since the first Sunday he held a bow. This is just the end stage, the final collapse of a body that has been falling apart for 38 years. But Emma notices. She always notices, sees him struggling to breathe after minor exertion, sees him coughing blood into rags he tries to hide, sees him moving slower, eating less, existing less. She sits beside him in the barn one evening. The question she asks is not whether he is dying, that is obvious, but something else entirely. Do you have any regrets? He considers lying, considers giving her the answer she might want, that he regrets nothing, that he would make the same choices, that their marriage and children justified everything. But they are too far past lies now. I regret that I came back. Would have been better if I died in Scotland. Better for you. Better for William and Robert and Agnes. They deserved a father who could be present instead of a ghost who makes arrows and wakes screaming. Emma's face does not change. She has known this for years, he realizes. Known that he wished himself dead. Known that she and the children reminded him of obligations he could not fulfill. Known that their life together was elaborate performance of normalcy neither of them believed. I don't regret waiting for you, even though maybe I should. Even though the boy I waited for never came home. Her words are not accusation, just statement of fact. They sit in silence while darkness gathers and chickens settle into sleep. That night he wakes from nightmare worse than usual. In the dream he is firing arrows at targets that keep becoming the rider's face. The young Scot who died calling for his mother. He fires and fires, and the face multiplies, becomes hundreds of faces, becomes thousands, becomes every person he killed directly or indirectly over 11 years of service. Blood runs down the arrows. Blood pools at his feet. Blood drowns him. He wakes gasping, choking, cannot get enough air into failing lungs. The panic compounds the breathing problem, compounds the panic. He is dying here in the barn, drowning on dry land, and some part of him welcomes it while another part rages against the injustice. That after surviving war, after decades of slow deterioration, he should die alone in a barn surrounded by chickens. Emma finds him at dawn, lying on his side, barely conscious, lips blue from oxygen deprivation. She runs for the healer, but they both know there is nothing to be done. This is the ending that has been coming for 38 years. They move him into the house, into the partitioned room that was supposed to be their marriage bed, but became mostly storage. Emma and Agnes tend him while William and Robert stand awkward and uncertain, not knowing how to be sons to a father who was never fully present. The boy, man, father, dying veteran whose name was never important enough to record, lies in the bed and watches his family watch him die. Emma sits beside him, holding his gnarled hand. The touch no longer triggers panic, too close to death for such earthly concerns. William stands at the foot of the bed, 17 years old, already twisted from training, already displaying the archer's curse in his developing hunchback and overdeveloped left arm. He will be called to war within the year, will march to Scotland or France, or wherever England's appetite for conquest demands. Will kill or be killed. Will come back broken or not come back at all. The boy wants to tell him something meaningful, some final wisdom that will make the suffering worthwhile, that will provide meaning to all this pain. But there is no wisdom, no meaning, just the grinding machinery of war consuming generation after generation, while the world pretends this is necessary, this is noble, this is the price of civilization. Instead, he says what Thomas told him years ago. Build walls, thick ones, between you and what you have to do, between who you are and who they make you become. It won't save you, but it might let you survive. William nods. Doesn't ask for elaboration. Understands already that elaboration wouldn't help. Robert is 15, 3 years from his own calling, 3 years from beginning his own descent into whatever hell awaits. Agnes is 13, already promised to a boy from neighboring village, a boy who trains every Sunday, who will be called to war eventually, who will father sons who train every Sunday in endless cycle. The pattern repeats, always repeats, will continue repeating long after he is gone. Night falls. The family maintains vigil. Emma sends the children to sleep. They need rest even if he does not. She stays beside him, hand in his, present steady even though he was never steady for her. I'm sorry, the words come out barely audible. For all of it. For coming back. For not being what you needed. You survived. That's more than most manage. Surviving isn't enough. Her silence acknowledges this truth. Surviving isn't enough, has never been enough. But it is all war leaves for those it doesn't kill outright. His breathing becomes more labored, lungs filling with fluid, drowning from the inside. He reaches for Emma's wooden bird, still in his pocket after all these years. Still stained with blood he never fully cleaned. Presses it into her hand. Give this to William, so he remembers there was something before the war. Something worth. He cannot finish the sentence. Cannot name what it was worth because maybe it wasn't worth anything. Emma takes the bird, closes his hand around hers. I'll remember for both of us. The room grows dimmer though no time has passed. Or perhaps hours have passed. Time has become unreliable, elastic, meaningless. He sees faces in the shadows. The rider he killed, Thomas of York, Peter who died on the march, Brother Thomas who showed him the skeletons, Master Archer William Blackwood who taught him to kill, all the men who died beside him and before him and because of him. They aren't ghosts, just memories given form by dying brain, trying to make sense of a life that held no sense. They watch him with expressions that contain no judgment, no forgiveness, just witnessing, acknowledging that he existed, that he killed, that he suffered, that he failed, that he was a weapon shaped from childhood and discarded when broken. The rider's face is clearest, still young, still dying, still calling for his mother in a language the boy never learned. He wants to apologize, wants to explain that he had no choice, that the law demanded it, that he was following orders, that war made them enemies. But apologies are pointless, and explanations are excuses, and the dead care about neither. Emma's hand in his is the only anchor to the world, the only thing that says he existed as something more than weapon, more than killer, more than broken body making arrows. He was someone's husband, inadequate though he was, someone's father, absent though he remained, someone's son, disappointing though he became. His breathing stops, then starts, then stops again. The gaps between breaths stretch longer. His heart, weak and damaged from decades of strain, beats irregularly, skipping, stuttering, forgetting its rhythm. Emma leans close. Her voice is the last thing he hears clearly. You were the boy who gave me a carved bird. Before the war, before everything. I remember him. The words are gift he does not deserve but accepts anyway, because the dying have no pride left. Somewhere inside this broken shell, perhaps fragments of that boy remain. Perhaps not. Either way, the accounting is finished. The cost has been paid in full with interest accumulated over 38 years of chronic dying. His heart stops, starts, stops again, does not start. Emma sits with his body for an hour before calling the family. Agnes weeps. Robert stares with face that tries to show appropriate grief, but mostly shows confusion about how to mourn someone who was present, but absent, alive, but not living. William stands silent, one hand resting on his father's twisted left arm, the arm that mirrors his own developing deformity, the visible proof that the pattern continues. They bury him the next day in the plot behind the church, in the section reserved for archers, in soil that has received hundreds of twisted bodies and will receive hundreds more. No headstone. Headstones are for those who mattered individually. Archers matter only in aggregate, only as statistics, only as tools in the king's arsenal. The priest speaks brief words about service and sacrifice and how God welcomes warriors into heaven. Emma does not contradict him, though she knows her husband expected no heaven, feared no hell, believed only in the meat reality of bodies breaking under systematic pressure. They lower him into the ground. William and Robert shovel dirt over the body. Agnes places the wooden bird, the one their mother gave their father 38 years ago, onto the fresh grave. It will not last. Rain and time will destroy it. But for now it marks the spot where a weapon shaped like a man finally stopped functioning. The family returns to their lives because life continues whether they want it to or not. Emma works at the forge. Agnes helps her mother. Robert trains every Sunday. William turns 18 2 months later. The recruiters come on a gray morning, identical to the morning they came for his father. They read names from a list. William's name is called. He has 3 days to prepare. On the fourth day, he marches to Newcastle with 30 other boys from surrounding villages, joining the endless stream of archers flowing toward Scotland, toward France, toward wherever England's appetite for conquest demands. Emma stands where Agnes stood 38 years before, watching her son march away, knowing the odds, knowing the pattern, knowing that the boy leaving will not be the man returning if he returns at all. The village watches with the resignation of people who have seen this countless times. The pattern repeats, always repeats. Boys are shaped into weapons. Weapons are used until they break. Broken weapons are discarded. New boys are shaped. The cycle continues unbroken, unbreakable, eternal as long as England requires its archers and the law remains absolute. 2 years later, Emma stands in the same place watching Robert march away. Agnes is 16, promised to a boy who will be called the following year. She will marry him before he leaves, bear his children if he returns, raise them alone if he does not. Her sons will train every Sunday. The pattern will continue. Decades pass. Generations pass. The longbow eventually becomes obsolete, replaced by crossbows, then firearms, then weapons unimaginable to those who fought with string and wood. The law requiring Sunday training is finally repealed centuries after it began, its purpose completed, its cost uncounted. But the graves remain. Behind every village church, in plots reserved for archers, twisted skeletons lie in soil that holds them gently, because soil does not judge. They lie forgotten by history that remembers only battles and kings and grand strategies, not the children fed into machinery that produced them. Yorkshire Archaeological Site, 2024. Dr. Sarah Mitchell and her team have excavated 427 skeletons from the mass burial ground. All display identical deformities. All died young. All were archers shaped from childhood, used until broken, discarded into unmarked graves. Sarah holds up the small wooden bird found with one skeleton. Male, age approximately 50, died circa 1330-1340. The carving is crude but careful, made by hands that wanted to give something meaningful. DNA analysis might someday identify descendants, if any exist, might trace bloodlines forward through centuries, might connect this anonymous weapon to the present day. But names are lost. Individual stories are lost. What remains are bones that testify to systematic destruction of human bodies in service of military efficiency. Archaeological evidence of a cost England paid gladly, because the cost was borne by those who had no choice in bearing it. The skeleton lies in the lab, left arm grotesquely overdeveloped, spine curved 47 degrees, finger bones grooved deep, shoulders studded with bone spurs. Every deformity tells the same story. Childhood training, decades of use, early death. Every skeleton in the collection tells the same story 427 times. Sarah writes her report, describes the findings with clinical precision, notes the systematic nature of the damage, observes that this represents deliberate policy, not accident or misfortune, concludes that England's military dominance for 2 centuries was built on the deliberately broken bodies of its own children. Her report will be published in academic journals, will be cited by other researchers, will contribute to understanding of medieval warfare and social systems, will change nothing about how modern nations use their young people in service of interests those young people have no voice in shaping. The pattern repeats, always repeats. The weapons change, the technology advances, the justifications evolve, but the fundamental transaction remains constant. The powerful demand sacrifice from the powerless, and the powerless have no choice except to be sacrificed or to flee. And fleeing only works until it doesn't, until the machinery catches up and extracts its due. Dr. Sarah Mitchell places the wooden bird beside the skeleton in storage. Both will be preserved for future study. Both will remain long after everyone who remembers the archer's curse has died. Both will testify to something that mattered to someone, though exactly what and exactly who are questions the evidence cannot answer. The boy who became this skeleton believed he was making arrows when war finished with him, believed he was surviving, believed he was being a husband, a father, a person. Perhaps he was all these things. Perhaps he was none of them. Perhaps the question of what he was matters less than the question of what was done to him, what he did to others, what the pattern demanded and extracted and left behind. Glory is a lie told by those who never paid its price. The boy understood this. Thomas understood this. William and Robert and Agnes and Emma understood this. Everyone who survived the pattern understood this. Everyone who died in the pattern understood this. But understanding changes nothing. The lie persists. The pattern continues. The bones accumulate in soil that holds them gently because soil, unlike history, does not lie.